All right, so I am here with Meridith today, and we're going to talk about inquiry cycles. But before we do that, why don't you introduce yourself, where you're from, your alma mater, and where you serve?
Sounds great. My name's Meridith, and I proudly serve at Tre Vista Elementary School in a third grade math classroom. I'm from Toledo, Ohio, and I went to Kenyon College, where I studied psychology and American studies, which I say is the contradiction between studying lived experiences versus American ideals.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a great explanation. Cool. So inquiry cycles are something that's unique to City or Denver. We do them during spring break. And as far as I know, like I said, we're the only site. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about what that looks like so that you're excited for next year.
Yeah.
So you led an inquiry cycle. Can you tell us a little bit more about what they are before we jump into the details of yours?
Absolutely. So the inquiry cycles are core member-led training days. So basically we got to propose a topic that we wanted to have our fellow core members learn more about. So for mine specifically related to what I studied in college, I did it on normalizing conversations on race in the classroom. So I led or facilitated and arranged a 6-hour training related to that, and I was able to bring in speakers who talked on this topic, as well as give a little introduction myself. So I led our core that selected to be in my inquiry cycle on implicit bias and implicit association. So basically, like, our brain is evolutionarily hardwired to trust what is familiar and be suspicious of what's unfamiliar. So these categorical associations our brain makes easily give rise to stereotypes, and like how those stereotypes show up in the classroom every day was something that I wanted to talk with my fellow core members about, and a good amount of people that were attended or in the core and wanted to attend my inquiry cycle also had that conversation with me. So I really enjoyed thinking in community with my fellow core members. There's different other topics you could choose for inquiry cycles. So some other groups were focused on LGBTQA groups for their students, and another group was on like the school to prison pipeline and mass incarceration. Topics could be like anything, so I think that's something really special, is that like the City or Denver site recognized that like we have a lot of different minds in the core, and how we can like think and learn from each other is something that's really valued. And it meant a lot to me afterwards. People like asked me for links to like different sources that I shared, and I also brought in some books, and it was during spring break, so some of the books that people wanted to read or like borrow from me and read over spring break, and then like were able to talk about it. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And just if people are thinking about ideas, and we usually frame it as like a social justice topic or activity, but yeah, if somebody had an idea, they could propose anything that they wanted, and
Absolutely, yeah.
and then everyone gets to choose which one they want to participate in.
Yeah.
Cool. So while you were planning it, what are some of the like successes or challenges that you encountered as someone leading a session?
I think successes is just like in knowing ways to lead a group, is like establishing group norms in the beginning, and like having everybody on the same page, and like especially with the topic of my inquiry cycle, like being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and like recognizing that that's how we grow as individuals and as a community, was something that was like because of City Year and because of like our norm setting as during basic training academy and other various times, like I was able to understand the importance of setting norms. So I think that was a success. And I also like really appreciated the speaker that I was able to bring in. She uses like a 4-step framework. The first one is like raising awareness. The second one is education, the third one self-reflection, and the fourth one is community action. So just discussing those 4 steps, and then looking at like without that self-awareness of one's own identity, by doing community action, that's just saviorism. So talking about that in discussion was something really important to me, especially in the national service program. So I really was appreciative of the City of Denver site for allowing us to have that conversation.
And it went pretty smoothly.
Yeah, it did. And we all had
Congrats.
a lot of appreciations to give to the speaker who came. Janice Pike from Where Change Started, if you want to follow her on Instagram, I highly recommend it.
Oh, cool. What's her handle? Do you
Where
know?
Change
Oh,
Where
that's
Change
the
Started.
handle. Oh,
That
okay.
is the handle, and it's also her website name.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then on that note, is there anything else you think is important to know about your session? And do you have any other resources, or you mentioned some books you want to throw out there if people are interested in learning about it?
Yeah. So, in terms of books, I know just in terms of culturally responsive teaching by Zaretta Hammond, that's a really good book that Denver Public Schools also uses in one of their fellowship programs for teachers. Teachers can sign on to read this book, and it's kind of like a book club, and they'll have more culturally responsive teaching practices through that. So we talked about that book a lot. Hidden Biases of Good People. That's by Blair and Banaji. That's again talking about implicit associations, and just we all have biases, and it doesn't mean we're a bad person. We grow up to be socialized in this world. So that's a pretty good book to talk about that and think about that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for leading that. And if anybody has questions about inquiry cycles or Meridith specifically,
Absolutely.
just comment on this, and
Yeah.
she'll be able to answer, or you can shoot me an email and I'll connect you with her. So, thanks.
Thank you.